Welcome to the FATO ANORMAL channel. In this video, we dive into the 8 most bizarre stories from 18th century America. Get ready for the hidden side of history. You might think you know the history of the United States with its colonies, revolutions, and legendary figures like George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. But what if I told you that behind the formal tone of history books lies a darker, stranger, and even absurd side that few dare to talk about? The 18th century was a turbulent time, and where there's chaos, there's weirdness. Get ready to travel through a time tunnel that will take you into the most insane backstage moments of America's foundation. From doctors who stole corpses to a woman who lived 4 weeks with a cannonball stuck in her ceiling. What you're about to hear will turn your idea of American history upside down. And here's a challenge. Which of these stories did you find most unbelievable? Or do you know something even weirder? Drop it in the comments and share this video with that friend who thinks the past was a simpler time. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. 1. The woman who lived with a cannon in her ceiling. Let's start with something surreal. In 1777, during the Revolutionary War, the city of Philadelphia was occupied by British troops. Amid the chaos, a woman named Lydia Durare was spying on enemy soldiers. But the truly bizarre part came when, during a bombing, a cannonball crashed through her roof and got stuck in the ceiling. The weirdest thing, she just kept living, as if nothing happened, with the iron sphere hanging in her living room like a deadly chandelier. She didn't remove it, didn't complain, just kept going. According to reports from the time, she said it was a daily reminder of the war. Or perhaps, the first known example of extreme patriotic home decor. 2. The corpse hunters of New York. By the late 18th century, a very respected University of Columbia College had a problem. Medical students needed cadavers to study, but no one wanted to donate their body. The solution? Grave robbing. Literally. These students began digging up corpses from cemeteries, especially from the graves of poor people and African Americans, whose burial sites were less guarded. It became so common that groups started holding night vigils in graveyards, armed with muskets. In 1788, the public found out and all hell broke loose. An angry mob stormed the hospital and nearly killed the doctors and students. The event became known as the Doctors' Riot. The wildest part, it all started when a boy saw a student dissecting an arm and heard him say, "This belonged to your mother." The kid ran home, told his father, and the city exploded. 3. Benjamin Franklin and the bones in the basement. Speaking of let's talk about good old Benjamin Franklin. Founding father, inventor, diplomat, writer, and, apparently, an accomplice to some very creepy activities. In 1998, during renovations in the London house where Franklin lived for nearly 20 years, over 1,200 pieces of human bone were found buried in the basement. Investigations revealed that the bones dated back to the 18th century, precisely when Franklin lived there. But before you picture Benji as a secret serial killer, the most accepted theory is that the bones came from illegal dissections done by his friend and tenant, William Housen. Still, it's creepy to think one of America's greatest icons was living above a hidden morgue. 4. The werewolf militia of Kentucky. Yes, you read that right. Werewolves. In 1793, reports started to spread across rural Kentucky about a hairy, red-eyed creature that attacked farmers and ripped the heads off horses with a single bite. The fear grew so intense that a group of local men declared themselves the Full Moon Army and began patrolling the forests, believing they were hunting a supernatural being. 4 months, locals swore they heard howls and saw humanoid figures walking on 2 legs among the crops. No one knows exactly what caused the hysteria. Maybe rabid coyotes, maybe collective delusion fueled by moonshine, but for a while, Kentucky lived through its own horror movie. 5. The prison run by prisoners in the 18th century. The American prison system was, let's say, and no place shows that better than Walnut Street Prison in Philadelphia. Established in 1773, it began as an attempt to reform inmates through isolation and reflection, but quickly turned into total chaos. The craziest part, the inmates took control. They organized their own courts, punishments, and even an internal economy. You could rent your cell to another prisoner or pay for a premium one, complete with a bed, windows, and meal service. There was even a prisoner known as Judge Pete who settled disputes among inmates. Yes, a prison where criminals ran the show like some kind of hellish reality TV series. 6. The Dancing Plague of Virginia. In 1782, a small community in Virginia was overtaken by mass hysteria, now called the dance fever. According to reports, more than 30 people were struck by an uncontrollable urge to dance for hours, sometimes for days until they collapsed or passed out. Doctors were baffled. Some blamed spirits, others suspected ergot poisoning, a fungus found in wheat that can cause hallucinations. The weirdest thing, after 2 weeks, it just stopped. Everyone went back to normal, like nothing ever happened. No one ever figured out what really triggered it, and the records still give historians the chills. 7. The Dueling Nun of South Carolina. The story of Margaret O'Connor is so outrageous it sounds made up, but it is documented in letters from the time. She was an Irish nun who immigrated to South Carolina and ended up in a sword duel with a local politician after a theological argument. Yes, sir, nun with a sword. The fight took place in 1791, in the middle of a plantation. With witnesses, the politician survived, but his honor was shattered. Margaret, on the other hand, became a local legend and was never punished. When asked how a nun knew how to fight so well, she simply said, "Faith sometimes needs a sword. Genius or menace, you decide." 8. The town that tried to make its own time in 1799, a village called Freedom, in Massachusetts, decided to reject the Gregorian calendar. Why? The local religious leaders believed that official timekeeping was a corrupt invention of the Pope in decadent Europe, so they created their own. The Freedom Time. Weeks had 8 days, months had new names, and the year began in March because God created the world in the spring. The town lived in this alternate timeline for almost 3 years, until trade with other regions became impossible. No one could understand their dates. They eventually went back to the regular calendar, but left behind written records saying, "Freedom Time still exists in the hearts of the pure." If that's not bizarre, what is? These were the 8 most bizarre facts about the United States in the 18th century. A century many considered the birth of a nation, but one that was also the stage for stories that seemed straight out of a horror novel, a gothic tale, or a collective nightmare. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Do you believe all of this? Or do you think some of these oddities have more rational explanations? Share your theory in the comments. If you know a bizarre story from your own city or country, let's build a true encyclopedia of the strange together. If you enjoyed this dive into the bizarre, leave a like, subscribe to the FATO ANORMAL channel, and turn on notifications because the next video is going to be even more disturbing. Until next time, and watch out for what might be hiding in your basement.